And we going live now.
What's going on? What's good? What's happening? It's the Chop Up Show. What's going down? Yeah, caught me by surprise, but I'm here now. I'm tapped in. It's another Thursday, but it's not a Thursday night. It is a Thursday afternoon. We catching y'all a little bit earlier than usual, so shout
The
out to everybody
daytime. Catch y'all in
who's
the
doing
daytime.
your late afternoon business. Maybe you headed to the crib. Maybe you just got home from the job. Maybe you just chilling, still enjoying your summer, but you tuned in with us. Maybe you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or one of the many other platforms we're on. 10% of our listeners ain't even in the United States. You know what I'm saying? So they listen to the chop up from a bunch of different places
A
these
lot of
days.
different places.
Uh, we'll talk more about that a little bit later, but I'm not by myself. I'm here with the political plug. What's going on with you, sir?
What's good? I mean, I want to remind y'all that we not just like a live YouTube stream, right?
Yeah.
If ever you miss it, if you want to catch up on any episodes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those is available. If you're trying to support, if you're trying to show love to the channel, just share them links. Just go to
Yeah.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, share them links. But let's get
And
into
of
it.
course, the Instagram follow us at the Chop Up Show on IG at the Chop Up Show. Shout out to J Universe. Shout out to Miss Ma'am in the comments talking to us. If you coming in and you watching, you already know what to do. Let us know you in the building. Let us know where you from. All of that is celebrated here. Let's go ahead and cut to the chase. Lizzo.
Let's do it.
Um, it's a lot. It's a lot going on.
Disappointing.
Okay, out the gate, you're letting us know how you really feel. We know Lizzo recently has come under fire within the last 24 hours, about 36 hours or so, with a lawsuit that has three complainants, three former dancers of hers. Those young ladies' names are Noel Rodriguez, Crystal Williams, and Ariana Davis. And they have since leveraged seven, I think, accusations against Lizzo in terms of the general themes of them are sexual harassment, fat shaming, and religious harassment, right? There's a situation where they had the dancers in Amsterdam, well, generally being in an atmosphere where they were kind of forced, if they wanted to succeed, to have an anything goes attitude. They went to Amsterdam to perform. A specific instance of this anything goes attitude was folks going out to the red light district, going to a particular place and having some type of banana sexual experience with some of the sex workers on the red light district. Was a part of a routine they do where they stick a banana inside of their genital areas, and you are expected to eat the banana out. Some of the women were also forced to like touch some of the dancers' bodies, touch breasts, do all types of things. And then
Mm-mm.
when conversations, so that's the first charge, but then also when the issue was brought up, there was a failure to respond to or deal with said harassment, which is a charge in and of itself. Then you look to the religious harassment, which came from the, I think, choreographer, somebody important, uh, last name Quigley, which is a co-defendant now alongside Lizzo, who was accused of being just kind of really weird across the board. Cause she hyper religious, right? So she was creating an environment where she forcing folk to pray and always talking about the Bible and always talk about what Christ wants and this and that, and forcing people to have conversations and do things really that they don't want to do. But that was all. It was also some tinges in there that got weird because she would do stuff like that and make it very weird for people religiously, but then also turn around and say sexual things as well. Like talk about how masturbation, for example, was a sin, but then talk about how she slipped up and had a oopsie the other day. And then like so it's just it was very just like a very conflictual, weird environment to deal with religiously. That's one charge, and another charge is a complaint about that wasn't followed through about when you allow the harassment to continue. That's a charge in of itself. And then the third is with the fat shaming. One of the young ladies, I believe, plaintiff
That's the craziest one for me.
Ariana Davis, and I could be wrong about that. I don't think it's Noah Rodriguez. I think it's Davis. Said that there was comments about her gaining weight and her job started to be at risk, and which is ironic, right? This is one of the most ironic things.
Right.
This is why everything is blowing up across the board, is because comments were made about how you can't be gaining weight and you can't basically talking about her body, talking about this and that and the other, for threatening her job in relationship to the weight that she had gained. I think two of the dancers had been let go when one of this third dancer, and I can't remember who was who, but one of the third dancers commented on how it was done, and it was done publicly and very messy or whatever. She got reprimanded. I think she even said that she was kidnapped or forcibly detained in some way, because they locked her in a room and forced her to delete some recordings that she had of some conversations that would have exposed Lizzo a long time ago. And so
they on some Ellen shit. They on that
yeah,
Ellen shit.
basically,
Yeah.
right? And so a lot of people are coming out of the woodworks, different people who have been a part of Lizzo's trajectory, to say, hey, she is a bad person. She is a terrible human being. She treats people poorly. She's not who y'all think she is. And as of this morning, no bullshit. This is why I stay on Twitter, and I'm telling y'all, Twitter, X, whatever the hell Elon Musk is calling. I'm calling it. Mama named Twitter. I'm gonna call it Twitter. On Twitter, literally, this is where people go to clear the air, to make clarifications. I was on Twitter because I couldn't sleep at like 6 a.m. Pacific time when Lizzo dropped a tweet that was like, hey, let me clarify. And it's one of those 4-page screenshot of a text where she's apologizing for some things, explaining other things. But a lot of people comments in the comments on Instagram and on Twitter was, baby girl, you got a lot of shit on you, and this ain't enough to explain away.
Yo, what is it about the showing the screenshots of messages? Because didn't Jonathan Majors tried to do the same thing? Jonathan Majors was, I mean, and not to speak on his innocence or guilt or anything, but it's just like that never seems to, nobody seems to respond to the look, I'm gonna release this text message, you know what I'm saying, response. That's never helpful. It's never helpful.
Well, I mean, and so, because this conversation isn't really as much about the intricacies of the case, right? We're gonna talk about that at a later time with more.
We letting that roll out. Like we letting this is a lot of this is fairly new. So we all of this is just the initial information. I think they was on they've been on TMZ, they've been on like Good Morning America or something like that. They've been making the rounds. You feel me?
All over the place.
And so the accusations are there, but we really don't start to get the good details. And I say good, I'm being messy. I apologize, y'all. But we really don't get the details until they start doing discovery, and we start really finding out what the deal is. That's the thing about suing people.
Yeah.
All the dirt come out.
It's stuff that nobody wanted to be seen. I already seen something where one of the young ladies who claimed to be in such a heinous and hostile environment made a video trying to reapply to work with Lizzo or something like that after she experienced whatever she experienced. So it's just like, if she was so bad and so terrible, why you try to come back and work for her? Like a lot of just weird things that are coming to the surface that we're gonna figure out about. But yeah. And then we'll fill in the blanks after that. But in the face of all of these interesting things, one of the biggest takeaways I have, knowing that we're not gonna get deep into the conversation, is just, of course, what's been happening in the comment sections. I really feel like, and that's about to start to be my shtick a little bit, so y'all stay tuned, but I think some of the more interesting conversations, a lot of times when big news breaks, is the news itself, but the juicy shit be in the comments and what people say and how people think, and like the social pulse from conversation to conversation about what's been happening. So, of course, on the surface level, we've been seeing a lot of people who are using this as a reason to be refat phobic, a lot of reason to come back from the shadows and start being like, that fat don't care about you, so why would we, she don't even, whatever, all that was fake. We told y'all wasn't this, we told y'all wasn't that. Basically an opportunity and an invitation to be fat phobic to her, to the dancers, to other fat people, to just talk negatively about those experiences.
Just stand in their bullshit.
Right. But I'm gonna tell you, can I tell you the thing that's really been perplexing, that's really been kind of fucking me up a little bit as a fat woman, as a fat black girl?
Talk to me.
Is the amount of fat women, like people who are like, I've seen so many on Spill, on Twitter, on Instagram. I have seen so many people be like, I'm fat and I wasn't even fucking with it. I'm fat and she don't speak for me. She never did speak. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like her or not, care about her or not, think she's something or not. My nigga, she was about you. She was for you. Her politic aligned with your very existence. So I'm not saying you have to be a Lizzo fan. I'm not saying you cop the album or listen, but like, why is you doing this to another fat girl, man? Like, why is you acting like this? And and it's one, I'm saying it's separate. You can render judgment. We in the court of public opinion. You can render judgment on her behaviors and actions.
Yeah.
But be about the behaviors and actions. Don't be like, don't box around on the level of fatness. Cause come on now. Y'all peas in the pod. None of us was getting chose. None of us was getting talked about. All of us was getting shat on, or at least in their own unique ways. This is not to say traffic ain't never slow over here. Let's be clear. And shout out to all my other fat girls who ain't never did the traffic. What did Gucci say?
What did he say?
Niggas is like buses. You miss one. The next 15 one is coming. So I'm not saying that completely. You know what I'm saying? Fat women haven't had access to the dating sphere. They're not desirable, whatever. But she created.
But it's politics that come with that, though, too.
She created conversation. She created politics. She created a brand. Yeah. And so there's some nuance there that I just thought was like, in terms of how, we so soon forget and want to detach and delink and really internalize. And let's talk about the topic of the show today, normalize a lot of the fat phobia that happens in our communities, because either A, you are not experiencing the targeting that fat phobia creates and the realities that fat phobia creates. And so you loose with the lips and you want to talk bad about how people exist and fat people live and how fat phobia is a good thing to kind of lean into, or you fat yourself and have internalized that oppression so bad that you have normalized fat phobia in our communities. And so this is going to be where we start with fat phobia, but it's not just about that. We're going to have 6 other things, a total of 7 things, 7 types of oppression that have been normalized in our communities in particular, that we feel like are damaging and harmful, and are ones that are not necessarily the regular conversations we talk about, right? Like internalized anti-blackness, right? Like
internalized racism, right? The ones that we usually sit on.
But what are some other things that is just like really jacking us up from the inside, right? So we're gonna start off with fat phobia. Plug, jump in here real quick and give me some of your thoughts on not necessarily the Lizzo situation proper, but kind of how this has influenced our community.
Well, no, I mean, because it's with the Lizzo shit, I'm just disappointed. I don't really put too much stock in celebrities anyway. So like to be like, oh my God, it's just like, it's disappointing. But in terms of, I think normative oppression is something that I'm always like gung ho to talk about. Just because not talking about it, not having the discussion is what makes it normative. The fact that we see it happen and we allow it to happen, we continue for it to happen, is where things start to get complicated. And the perception that we have about why fat phobia is beneficial is really fucked up. And even though it has some basis in certain scientific arguments, a lot of the new conversation and a lot of the new data is telling us like, nah, that's just not really cool like that, right? And so, in a recent study that I stumbled upon, let me get the name of it first. How and why weight stigma drives the obesity epidemic and harms health. It's dealing with the question of what happens when this violence gets or this type of oppression gets normalized. And then the internal violence that it creates within individuals. Now, I want to start with this first part where it says common wisdom and certain medical ethicists assert that stigmatizing higher weight individuals and applying social pressure to incite weight loss improves population health. So the idea is that if we tell people that it's not good to be fat, then they'll do more and they'll work harder, right, to not be fat. If we stigmatize fatness, people will do more to move away from fatness. But here's the problem with that. That shit ain't true. The article goes on to argue the opposite. The latest science indicates that weight stigma can trigger physiological and behavioral changes linked to poor metabolic health, increased weight gain. In laboratory experiments, when study participants are manipulated to experience weight stigma, their eating increases, their self-regulation decreases, and their cortisol levels are higher relative to controls, particularly among those who perceive themselves to be overweight. So what the data showing, the research is showing, is that we're not helping people that we calling fat, we're not helping them by treating them like shit. It's actually making the issues worse, right? It's like we know what stress eating is. We know the impact that have on people. But when we've kind of got it in our mind, and it's like, well, they unhealthy. So that's really something that we should, you know what I'm saying, like challenge. That's really something we should push back against. That's where it's like, all right, you're not doing what you think you're doing. Go ahead, for you.
And I mean, you know, a lot of people walk around and they're like, this ain't hurting them. It ain't no fat phobia. This is not being violent. You ain't being mean to no fat people by just telling them the truth. They need to hear the truth. They need to know the truth. First of all, we had a conversation with Cat Schwartz in February about fat phobia and the ways that it literally shapes
Shout out to Cat.
barriers. Shout out to Cat for people surviving and thriving in our communities. It is one of the only types of discrimination that exists that is not legally protected. So yes, you can be fat at your job and people will say you're too stupid because fat people are read as dumb or incapable to do the job, so we're not going to give you the promotion. Yeah, I can literally look at you and say you're fat, and so you don't really meet the image, the representation of this organization or this company or whatever, and decide not to hire you, or look at you in an interview and say, no, you're black, you're fine, I love black people. No, you're a woman, I love women. Oh, no, you got a disability. Oh, no, we ain't got no problem. No, the problem was that you was fat, right? And so they'll call it unqualified, but when we talk about the barriers that this not only creates in the workplace, but also in people's real ass lives, the dating world, the familial world. Y'all know how y'all sit around and talked about y'all cousins and y'all cousins talked about y'all, right? It really is an issue, and it's something that has to be confronted because you're not inspiring people to change, right? This is also not a conversation, and this is a separate conversation from what it means to have norms of health in our communities and our society. Our society is getting bigger. Our community, particularly, is getting bigger. A lot of reasons, let's not forget to explain that don't have a lot to do with me, because if y'all keep manipulating and tampering with my food, and that's what you sell me at the store and at the restaurant, and that's all I got to buy, you can't be confused when people start to gain a whole bunch of weight. So we got to think about that too when we're trying to point the finger and blame people, because look, access issues, quality of food issues,
right?
Community is all of that. It's
a lot cheaper to eat. It's a lot cheaper to eat unhealthy as shit.
And I mean, there are also healthier options out there to live right, but you also live with a lot of miseducation and a lot of misnomers. And to be honest, as somebody who's been trying to lose weight for their whole life, the shit get confusing and overwhelming after a while. Imagine living your whole life trying to lose weight. Every day you wake up and every night before you go to bed, it's a question of, have you done enough to try to lose weight? Have you done enough to change your body? Have you done enough to whatever? And so, you know, I really want us to just be mindful of how we've messed up our communities in that regard. So when we look at Jennifer Sharp, Jennifer left a comment that I agree with, and that's what I wanted to get to. Sometimes, you know, even when you fat, right, we have the Lizzos of the world who are paving ways and creating ways, you know, creating paths for people to exist. Yeah. But in our communities, it's layers to the shit. So it's also a world where you can be the wrong type of fat. Right? You can be bad fat. So Jennifer says also, if you're fat and not a desirable body shape, an hourglass shape, then people are fat phobic towards you. And it's 1000% true, right? Not only do you have to, if you're going to be fat, right, people are giving grace. The community is changing. They're easing up. The Lizzos of the world, the Queen Latifahs, the Missy Elliott's, there are a bunch of people, a bunch of larger women who have been able to take up
navigate certain spaces. Yeah. The BBW.
But, exactly. But you got to be a BBW, right? You got to look like Takara. You got to look like Megan before she lost weight. You got to look like, who's another bigger body person I want to talk to? Maybe a Jennifer Hudson, right? You got to have a certain type of body.
Niecy Nash, right? I mean, there are a bunch of different larger women that are probably plus size for all intents and purposes. But if you are bigger on the top than you are at the bottom, if you're bigger at the bottom than you are at the top, if we can't really find your waist easily, it's going to be a whole lot of problems that people have. You know, this whole notion of big backedness that is shaped a lot of the conversation about body. A lot of that shit is just negatively targeting people who are bad built and thus don't have any currency in our communities either. And then I want you to jump in on this tip before we even transition to the next thing and talk about the way body image issues and fat phobia and body weight discrimination affects men, because we talk about them a little bit. They slide in there, and whenever Lizzo, a huge part of Lizzo, I'm gonna say this: when we was did you see that Rick Ross meme where he's sitting on the side of a bed with no shirt on? It was with Big Ross. It was like a meme about, you know, how you free your titties at the end of the day. Well, you said we take off our bras.
Exactly. And so a lot of people was like, y'all want us to take up for Lizzo, but y'all will come over here and talk bad about Rick Ross. And I feel like there's a grain of truth there. I think it's disproportionate when it comes to women. Big fat boy, little teddy bear, y'all get away with the shit.
And that's what I was, and that was gonna be my insight. Like I just feel like this is where like a lot of shit is gendered. You know what I'm saying? Because as a like I've always been pretty thin up until recently. But even with me gaining weight, this is the thing about it. Like I feel chunky. You know what I mean? Toya, you know me. I always been, you know what I'm saying, a lot skinnier than niggas. But I feel chunky now, right? But people see weight on me and be like, that weight look good on you. You look like that look good. Like my stepdad came and grabbed, like, yeah, you eating. You know what I'm saying? You got that dad weight on you. Right? It's a dad bod. It's dad weight. It's you know what I'm saying, a teddy bear. It's all of these. It's all of it. But again though, it's the good kind. It's the good kind, right? Yeah. Because you know you got certain men that get treated like shit, right? But you gotta have other things that's able to navigate that, right? Like if you got money, fat niggas with money, they, you know what I'm saying, they win. They fat niggas with money ain't catching no L's. You feel me? And so there you can find, it can be an advantage if you got the other things that can elevate you in the social sphere. But for men, for the most part, it's a lot easier for us to navigate outside of the stigma, even though we do get picked on. And I mean, just as much. Like, cause I ain't gonna lie. Like Toya, me and Toya shared a debate partner in high school. My nigga James. And James, when he was younger, he was a little chunky nigga. You feel me? And you know, it was all type of fat jokes about him. You know what I mean? Like, you fat, you can't jump.
Y'all used to say he looked like Corey from That's So Raven. He looked like all types of crazy shit.
And even more recently, anybody who know my one of my older debate partners.
We don't have to drop a name here because he's findable and we don't just leave his name out of it.
Okay. All right. Right. And again, because see, I ain't even thinking about it as something that's, you know what I mean?
As a fat person, just leave his name out of it.
Thank you. Thank you. This is why we learn, people. Y'all watching the process. But
we can describe
my nigga, I love this nigga. Like, this my brother for real. I call him Fat Cuz. Like, Fat Cuz. You feel me? And that's what I called him when we was younger. Not as much. You know what I'm saying? But it was just like, and when I say younger, this is just college. Like, just years ago, you feel me? So it's one of them things to where it's low hanging fruit, but easily deployed when it comes to men. You know what I mean? But I do think that men have ways that they can navigate around it, right? To where it could not necessarily be a benefit, but still allow them to be considered acceptable in certain spaces.
It's rough being as a woman who has had access to a lot of male-dominated spaces. I have a lot of men friends. I have always kind of been a little bit more masculine in the center. So yeah, I'll watch you play the game. Yeah, we can go shoot around. Yeah, I'll go slide with you. Like, yeah, we'll go do all of that. And one of the dozens, I think niggas already knew, because I'm still a woman in here. God damn it. Like,
yes. So listen, Toya this is my nigga, but she's a woman.
Yeah,
she's a woman.
1000%. And so don't bring that over here. But I would just be astonished because the way dudes like play the dozens and talk to each other and talk back, I would like me and my woman friends we would fight. Yeah. We would put hands on each other. And a lot of that, especially with how women are in relationship to their bodies, as soon as you throw out a fat joke, me and you getting in. We going up. Like, what is it? You know what I'm saying? So but I say this to say, you know, this is because we treat men as emotionless. We pretend that they don't get hurt feelings. Right. If they cry, they some punks, and it's a whole nother jar, you know, issues we got to open up about their sexuality now and all types of crazy stuff. And so I feel for bigger body, for fat boys, you know what I'm saying? For men, that's because we reclaiming fatness, you know, as a term that has been a move to just not look at it as derogatory, but people who live in bigger bodies, regardless of even what your gender or expression or orientation is. Because sometimes a lot of the dysphoria you have and not feeling like yourself and your body has to do with how you have to carry the weight that you have. And so it's a lot of overlaps, it's a lot of intersections, and to just things to consider as we consider how we have normalized fat phobia and fat discrimination in our own communities and in our own households, right? This with your cousin and your little brother and your sister and them and the stuff you think is joking. They know how to take a joke.
Think about that shit. Yeah, just think about that shit. Think about how that makes them feel, right?
That's like, it. But let's slide to the next one.
All right, so the next one we got again. Now y'all make sure y'all chime in as well. We got a few people that's helping us out, but this next one we got, the second one, and this is a form of normalized depression. Pocket watching.
Mm-hmm.
Pocket watching. Now what we mean by pocket watching is what it used to be called back in the day is keeping up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's, and more specifically, keeping up with how much the Joneses is making. Being able to buy the things the Joneses are buying, right? And if you feel like, okay, maybe that the Joneses can't get what you get, then now that speaks to something that like with them as people. And we see pocket watching a lot more prevalent these days with the rise of like the financial literacy podcast, the, Earn Your Leisure, the Wall Street Trapper, like, yo, you can make this much money by flipping shit like this. And all you got to do is invest this much money and you can be having da-da-da-da-da-da, right? Like all of these now, we can be financially free. We can be financially literate. You know what I'm saying? Conversations is making it to where it's always a question of how much somebody making.
Yeah.
What are you making? How much somebody making? And there are other things that we're gonna talk about that kind of descend from this, but it starts with this constant focus of tying somebody's credibility and their value to how much money they making. Now, the one thing that we know for sure when we talk about capitalism, it's not just a question of buying things and having things. It's a value system. It's a question of how people get treated. It's a question of how people are looked at, what people deserve. And when there's when there's a conversation that's constantly about how much somebody is making, then that ends up tying who that person is, what that person deserves to have, to really their wallet. And I think the best example of this, and I wish I could find the video, and I don't even know the name of the podcast. But what as much as I've been talking shit about podcast niggas, I want to make sure to highlight podcast niggas that be saying beneficial shit too. We got two that we got one that we're gonna show today, but this is another nigga that I was paying attention to. And if y'all notice the name of this podcast or heard this, like, speak up, but in the chat. Also, make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all subscribe if y'all are not, and hit that notification bell to be able to pop in whenever we go live. Let me get that plug in there. But the brother was explaining when it comes to men, where we do have it bad, is the question of who we are as a person, like whether we're a good person, like a loyal person, good mate, good father. All of that is tied up in how much money we make.
Yeah.
Like the type of person you are, the type of value you bring to a relationship, the type of value you bring to a family, none of that matters if it's not directly linked to the type of bank account that people would argue should be acceptable for a man. Right? That's why we have all of these things. These conversations are going viral of paying for this and paying for that, and
$200 dates.
Right, 200. Like we talked about like over a week ago. Like these stupid,
just split the rent 50-50.
Right, just these stupid conversations about
thinking deeply about shallow shit.
Exactly. We think deep. When we're pocket watching. When we're tying the value of a man to how much money they make, we thinking deeply about shallow shit. And before I pass it to you, Toya, I gotta respond to the criticism that we typically hear associated with these things is, well, men are supposed to provide. Men are providers. They're supposed to provide, right? Again, the idea of what a man should do, what a man should be, is grade A, first class plantation patriarchy. This the perception that we are attempting to adhere to. This ain't talking bad about niggas just doing what they. I got a family, so I gotta provide. You feel me? Like I gotta make sure that I'm, you know what I'm saying, bringing something of value to, bringing some monetary value to what's happening in my household. But here's the thing, right? When we only look at men and we only value men from the perspective of they pockets. Right? What happens to their mental health when we don't, when we don't have what people consider us supposed to have? When we're not actually making the type of money, like as we on the come up type shit, as people like to point out. You feel me? It's like, yeah, we can have this perception of, oh, you gotta be a provider, but we people too. You know what I'm saying? And then the humanity of men is denied when it comes to what they pockets is looking like. Go ahead. Chime in.
I mean, it's rough. I think the greatest example. There are a bunch of different great examples of and unfortunate examples of that, and I think when we look to even on the level of homelessness, right? Like a lot of men, who can fall on hard times, have a harder time even getting into homeless shelters, right? You do have to be a woman. You'd have to be a woman with kids. You got that. You have to be able to express this prolific need, right? And to prove that you've done all that you can to go and fix it yourself and do it. I mean, and even on the level of just bare despair, right? There is this competition, this challenge of what your value is and whether you've proven that enough to get assistance from the state or from whomever that's supposed to be available to everybody. When I think about what you said in terms of being normalized and kind of indoctrinated in certain ways to have to provide and your value being lynched on that, I think about a series of videos that I've come across over lately, or even tweets that are like either in video form or screenshot form, some teenage girl, right, that's just getting in her dating situation who has shut down or turned down this little boy because he don't make enough money, right? And I'm just like, what are you even? Y'all 15, y'all 16. You can't even look at the little boy character. He ain't got maybe he can't go to work. Maybe he ain't got no job to get, no car to get back and forth to a job because his parents got the only car. And it's 1,000 reasons why somebody might not have a job at 16.
At 16.
At 17, in high school, right? But because this little boy ain't got money and access to give to you, like, why are you walking around expecting that little boys are supposed to just give you like this whole mindset of people just in general and queer relationships too, people just supposed to just give you shit on the nature of whatever gender expression you have or whatever part of the spectrum you like. It's mind-blowing to me, and it is proof that mindset is being implanted earlier. And I think what really sucks is and I've seen a lot of posts like this. It would have been hard for us to be in high school. I'm glad I went to high school when I did. Man, I wouldn't have survived. I wouldn't have survived. I don't know.
We got out at the perfect time because we got out right when Facebook started.
How much shit you got to have to be that girl or that boy or that nigga? Like, you gotta really have your bread, guala, like just. Like,
and that's why, and that's where people kind of ignore like a key component of capitalism, and that is constant competition. Yeah, it's constant competition. Like, it's constantly comparing material value to material value, and this is where, and I may say something that may be a bit controversial, and it is what it is. This is the type of shit that legitimizes the Kevin Samuels of the world. This is the type of shit that legitimizes the manosphere. When you listen to what them niggas complain about, they complain about people not caring about them outside of what they can do for them. That's why they encourage you to be a high value man, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to up your value because you're not going to get cared about without it. Because what happens in turn? What happens in turn is that, once I get the money, then now it's a question of who the fuck I want to be with based on me having bread. Now I have no incentive to be a good person towards women. Now that I have accessibility to women because of my money, it's because shit, they didn't give a fuck if I was a good person or not. They wanted the bread. Yeah. Right. And that mentality, because like as much as we kind of push back against those type of niggas and we push back against the Kevin Samuels mentality, like that mentality stemmed from women who had no problem saying, I want you for your money. Yeah. Period. It's like, okay, cool. If you want me for my money, then there's certain things that come with that. Yeah. There's certain things that come with that. That means that shit, I mean, like, I dictate this, I control this, and this respect thing, I ain't got no reason to respect you because you only want me for my money anyway. That part. That's not how we should be. We should be bringing up the next generation in terms of what mating looks like. I mean, we've completely moved away from giving a fuck about people's personalities, like really caring about, like, can you have a conversation? What can we discuss? It now is just can we do something that I can put on Instagram to make it seem like we both doing something. I mean, and even outside of the kind of relationship gender paradigm, just people living as people. Y'all don't recognize that we a bunch of poor people trying to flex on a whole bunch of other poor people. I can't be the only person who sit here working all these jobs that I work and trying to hitting all these licks I'm trying to hit in terms of this side job and this opportunity and chasing this down and trying to get my business going. And you look around, people going on vacations, people buying new stuff. You're like, how in the hell are they doing it? Nigga, credit. They went into debt. They are sacrificing in other ways, or they're working hard and figuring it out, and they didn't tie it together to create the reality that they want. But it's hard. Right.
And it's a struggle and it's a grind. And we're going to talk about that grind in a minute. But when it's all said and done, be careful who you tongue your nose at because we are a part of the 99. You might be 81 and I might be 93. But we are part of the 99% of people who don't have anything, who are getting our ass beat by that 1%. So when it's all said and done, we are all peons. We are all poor. We cannot go jump on a ship.
We are the proletariat.
For
We are the proletariat.
$250,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't just and go scoff at shit like that and just be like, oh, I'm just going under the ocean and go. We can't do that.
Not right.
Right? Like, it's so
we the working class. Shit.
I just don't get lost in that sauce, right? The plug just talked about a very important Marxist term, Karl Marx being, one of the innovators of a recent thoughts about capitalism and formative theories.
The more modern understanding of capitalism,
exactly.
As a negative, as a bad thing.
He has described the poor people as the proletariat, and he describes the rich people as the bourgeoisie. I do want to point out before we move to the next part, Ms. Ma'am's comment. Thinking back to high school, when we were in high school, if you weren't broke, you was more likely to catch a side eye, and that's real, right? If you come in with all the bread and all of this and all of that, you kind of bougie. You a little bit inaccessible. You might be a little. You ain't real. You know what I'm saying? You ain't from the mud. You ain't getting it how we
yeah,
so
yeah.
Because you ain't built like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I ain't saying we got to struggle as a people. I ain't saying having things is a bad thing. I'm saying don't get lost and caught up in that bullshit. And
don't get lost in the sauce.
Anybody's value based on how much money you think they got, because you don't know nothing.
And that helps us transition into this next part. Again, make sure y'all hit that like button and say what's up when y'all come in. What do y'all think about, some of the things we've listed so far? We definitely want to hear from y'all. But what we got next on the list is job shaming.
Yeah.
Job shaming. Now, Toya, you remember the more recent incident when it came to job shaming, don't you?
What you mean?
What's her name? Was it Ebony K. Williams? Was she dated a bus driver?
Oh yeah.
Y'all correct me in the chat. Y'all correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. That was Ebony K. Williams that said that she was
a bus driver or garbage truck driver, one of the two.
Nah, she said bus driver because when she cleared it up, she was like, yeah, I'll date a bus driver if he owned the bus company or something like that. Then it's like that don't make sense because. What you doing driving it, you supposed to be running it. I mean, I guess you can. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But job shaming. What is it? What does it mean to work a for real job? Like, what does it mean to do what you got to do to survive and what that looks like, and how you get treated, right? A couple things that I wanted to point out when it came to job shaming, which really make it becomes dangerous and complex because there's three things at work with job shaming. We have capitalism, which we talked about previously, but then you also have social hierarchies and the media. Like the capitalism creates the value for the jobs, even though there's certain jobs that have more value to society than others. Being a CEO of whatever tech company doesn't have the same value as a trash man. If we being societal value, the people who pick up your trash does much more for you than the people who sell you iPhones.
Come on.
Okay? But because iPhones have that the value of capitalism, the free market, look, it's this shiny thing, great marketing, we need it, we got to have it. The person who don't even make it, let's look at it from the iPhone perspective. The person who make the iPhone don't have as much value as the CEO who don't know how to put none of that shit together. Right? So capitalism creates this dynamic to where the worker, the person that's doing the most to produce,
most important work. Yeah.
The most important work, exactly. They are viewed as less than. Then when we get from up under capitalism, the societal hierarchies then solidify that. Would you marry a garbage man? You don't want to be a janitor. You don't want to work under somebody's car. You don't want to be you don't want to be cleaning people's toilets. Who gonna clean the toilets? If we telling nobody to clean the toilets, who gonna clean the toilets?
Who gonna clean them?
Because think about it. Just because it's something that nobody wants to do, we all recognize that it need to be done, right? But we've ingrained because the person that's at the top that does the least amount of work, because they getting the most money, they must be the most valuable person. So then we create these prejudices in these jobs, around these jobs, and then the media does that final job of putting a nail in the coffin. Right? It solidifies the images. There's no movie where the hero is the trash man. Right? There's no movie where the hero is the person that does the normal shit, the regular shit, the everyday shit.
Who teaches the class, who teaches the third graders, who stocks the grocery store, who pick a thing, right? Who serves your food at your favorite restaurant. They're not that important.
So exactly. And so it's this trifecta, this intersection of capitalism, social hierarchies, and media that make it to where we able to look at people who do some of the most important jobs in our society and treat them like shit.
What do you think? I mean, think about the thing I would add is just think about how we meet people, how we introduce ourselves to people. One of the worst things that I think has crept its way into how we live our lives is, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. How are you? Oh, okay, it's nice to meet you. Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. So what do you do? Right? That immediately out the gate. And this is building building intimate relationships. This is building friendships. This is just getting to know people or network people. You really do determine how much time a day you're going to give somebody based on what they say they do. There's a reason, and I'm aware of that, right? I get to say I don't have a PhD at all, right? I am technically a lecturer. Is what my job title is. Now I'm a director of the debate team at the university that I work at, but technically I'm a lecturer, but that doesn't sound as fun. So I tell people that I'm a college professor. Why? Because I know that they'll perk up a little bit, that they'll change how they talk to me, that they'll rethink about trying to come at me sideways or be shady or think they about to get one over on me, because I'm not no dummy, I'm not no fool, and I'm not no spring chicken. I was born at night, not last night.
Got some prestige to it.
Baby, I teach the classes, and if you want me to wait, you can Google me. You know what I'm saying? And so I do that so that but at the same time, right, I also try to be mindful of how I interact and engage with people, because I don't want to be condescending. I don't want people to assume that I don't value your voice, your perspective, who you are, your personhood, because you don't do what I do and you haven't been in the spaces or the institutions that I've had to go through just to keep my lights on. I'm no different than you. The path was just a little different than getting there. You know what I'm saying? So again, capitalism is beating everybody's ass. So as we look at the things that kind of hurt us, that keep us from building community, keep us from building meaningful relationships. We already know, especially in our generation, jobs change 10 times over. There's no, right, where do you want to be in 10 to 15 years? Well, where do you want? No, I want to be who's going to pay my bills right, who's going to do me right, going to treat me right at this job. And so I say all that to say, you never know what season you meeting somebody on.
Exactly.
Or meeting somebody. You got to take calculated risk. You got to be careful who you hit your wagon onto, friendship, relationship, or otherwise. But at the same time, be careful about how you can very easily dismiss solid people from your life just by turning your nose up about where they work,
about what they do. Yeah, that shit, and that shit is crazy to me, because I feel like when we all live in a world where most of us ain't millionaires. Yeah. Most of society ain't millionaires. Most of society, or especially most of the society that we live in, like, y'all savings is I don't care how y'all look on Instagram. I don't care what vacations y'all on. The studies show that the savings of the average American is
$500 less. The average American can't afford to fight back or pay their bills up to 6 months or more.
The average American.
There's a huge aggressive percentage of Americans who don't even make six figures, babe. And I'm talking about not even $102,000, $105,000. There's a whole lot of people out there making five figures. So humble yourself, whoever you are and however you move. And then jobs come and go. So you can be paid today and be broke as hell mañana. So another reason why, humble yourself.
And again, the reason why these like having this conversation is important is because, like, when you look at even how people responded to Lizzo, like how fat women responded to Lizzo, it was like the speed by which we are willing to throw the same people under the bus that we would get thrown under the bus for are being, right? Like, that's what allows this type of shit to happen. The reason why we continue to have like the essential workers right? The amount of people the amount of nurses that got COVID and other, people that was like, while everybody else at home chilling, getting unemployment, these people is like literally putting their life on the line to give you Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? And you got companies like Walmart that don't want to pay hazard pay. Y'all go back.
You got it.
Yeah, go back to the episode that we did where we talked about all the companies that made billions during COVID, and how they didn't do nothing to put money in the pockets of the people. Why are they able to get away with that type of shit? Because we don't care about them people. The jobs that we are willing to shame, we don't give a damn about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the reason why we don't give a damn about it has to do with, are you ready to transition to you?
Yeah.
The reason why we don't give a fuck about it is because we got this grind or die mentality.
Yeah.
We are oppressed by this idea that we should work ourselves to death. And that's a good thing. Go ahead, Toya.
Especially now. I mean, you were just talking about corporations making record deals. I seen a spiel yesterday. Shout out to Spill. If y'all are out there and don't have your Spill invites, I think I got a new batch. So if you haven't jumped on Spill yet, the conversations are still popping over there. So if you got an iPhone, let me know. We got an invite for you. But I seen a spiel.
And I still got an invite too. I still got an invite. I still got a couple.
Yeah, he ain't been giving out invites to nobody. So yeah.
But if y'all, I was about to, but Toya did it. But if y'all still looking for Spill invites, pull up.
On Spill, saw one where somebody was like, they keep hollering about, the economy improving, but I can't tell at the grocery store. Like, it's not there, right? And the reason why is that we've seen corporations make record numbers through the pandemic, and it's going to sustain itself after. I already knew when I started seeing prices like jump up and get that high. I was like, what incentive do they have to take it down if they know we're going to buy it? They know we're going to spend the money. Right? I said this on the conversation we had before. They know we're going to buy them eggs. They know we need that loaf of bread. They know we need that pack of sandwich meat to make our kids meals for the week. And so we're not just going to not buy it. We're just going to find ways to go without in other places. So they're going to keep having record-breaking years because we are in a free fall where there is no incentive for the people who are price gouging to stop doing so. Right? So it helps
no protections.
Nobody. Right? It helps nobody to pretend that you can grind your way out of a broken system. Nah. It helps nobody. And there are always going to be exceptions. There are billions of people on this planet. So yes, you are going to be able to point to this Instagram account and that Instagram account and this TikToker and that TikToker and this YouTuber and that YouTuber and this person who went the path and got the PhD and became a doctor and you're going to be able to point out some of those, but the vast majority of people are fighting for their lives and they're getting their asses beat. And that is because the system is designed not to allow people to be able, you can't have a lot of people win it. Or capitalism is out of balance. It's out of whack now. There are too many people. There are too many folks a part of the bourgeoisie. Not enough. There are too many producers, right? Not enough consumers. There are too many producers, but not enough workers or laborers. That throws the system out of whack. They're going to keep creating and playing the game in order to keep people dependent and committed to grinding their whole ass life away instead of finding joy and happiness in the shit they got.
Something that you're gonna hear from Toya, myself, the Conscious Collective, Lee, right?
Yeah. You
cannot grind your way out of oppression. You cannot buy stocks out of racism.
Yeah.
There is no house that you could flip that's gonna get us away from white supremacy. It don't work like that. Yeah. And what's so infuriating is that we have bought into the logic of capitalism so heavily that we are more concerned with getting the bag and generational wealth than overcoming and dealing with generational trauma. Mm-hmm. Because you want to know why niggas get money and do stupid shit with their money? Because they still working through the trauma of being impoverished.
I'm not having shit.
And what that means. Like when people recognize what the difference in living, like just having a few more 100,000, just that, the difference in living is astronomical. We spend all this time talking about generational wealth, creating generational wealth. But what happens when we are able to pass that down?
Yeah.
And we ain't dealt with the generational trauma. that we've endured for being black and poor. Then what do we do?
Abusers in your family. You still got people who are struggling with navigating systems and institutions. You still got, it's a bunch of things that exist and remain in your family and that are traumas that are shaping the trajectory of that unit. Are you doing it with, I mean, I guess some people say I'd rather cry in the Benz, I'd rather cry in a Bugatti than in an apartment, but sure. Like
But
that
that's what I'm
shit is
saying. Most people not going, but that most people not gonna cry in a Bugatti. That's the thing.
yeah, yeah.
That's it. Like most people, that's not for most people. That's not gonna be the
That's
case.
not the reality.
And so that means you're gonna spend your life focused on these things that make you miserable. That focus on these things that make you hate yourself. Right, to the point where you are okay with wage slavery. Right, like again, when we go back to how men are viewed when it terms to when it comes to job shaming, shit, that grind or die, like constantly you have people talking about going back to the good old days where the daddy was home and he worked a good job. He worked at the plant and he came home, he took care of his family and all that other shit, but completely ignore everything else that came with them old school ass homes. One movie that does a good job of like really not playing around with it is Fences.
Yeah.
Like Denzel Washington played a mean ass daddy, and that didn't romanticize that black image that you hear from niggas on the internet talking about what we used to do in the 20s and why integration was bad and all that other shit. Yes, these men worked hard. They were they brought home, they put a roof over their kids' head and all that other shit, and let them know it every chance you got. Boy, who house you under? This my house. It was love there, but that love was very toxic. It was problematic.
It makes me think of the movie. Have you seen Kingdom Come? I think it is with like Whoopi Goldberg.
I vaguely.
Jays in it.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's funny as hell.
Beyonce in it?
I don't think so. But I don't think so. It's in that era of movie though. But I just think back to what they was gonna put on the headstone of the daddy when he died, because the whole movie is about his funeral and them kind of coming back home and dealing with all those arrangements. It's like Loretta Devine is in it, a bunch of people. And Whoopi Goldberg, when asked about what she was gonna put on the husband's headstone, said mean and surly. That was all that shit said. It was mean and surly. That's how people remembered him. Right? That was how her husband, the person she was with through, I think they probably had like 4-5 kids, was just, he was mean and you was just rude and sharp
mean and surly motherfucker. Yeah.
But why? You know what I'm saying? Because he was probably of that generation where all you did was go and work and come back in. So this is how you develop addiction. This is why how abuse happens in a household, whether you're abusing your kids, abusing your partner, abusing a substance, right? Or just like you literally, there's no balance. You come in, you have whatever, you eat your food, you watch your show, you go to bed, you wake up. So now we have a depression, right? Now we have a lot of different issues.
You have resentment, right? You have
unchecked health issues.
Like real, like, cholesterol issues and, what I'm saying, arthritis. Like, these is all real shit these men are dealing with, and we glamorizing it, right? We trying to go back to, we romanticizing it, but the reality of what them men had to endure was fuck. And then the first thing they say, y'all gotta go. I'm not trying to hear y'all complain. I'm not trying to hear y'all problems, because all y'all eating good and doing. I'm the one that got to deal with them crackers. I'm the one that got to deal with them not paying me right. I'm the one that got to. So I get to do what I want to do. And as much as that feels justified and it feels right, that grind or die mentality created very counterproductive relationships with fathers and sons and fathers and daughters and men and their wives, right? Because a lot of these niggas, let's be real, all of y'all grandpa got other kids. Yeah, he was the patient. Consciously, he was a perfect one. He'd be the first. I wish he was here, because he could show that example of, we love our granddaddy. Like, granddaddy was, that was our patriarch. He took care of this, he took care of that. Yeah, and he took care of that house down the street too with Miss what's her name and them is our other cousins. Right. That grinded out shit is not good for our mental health. It's not good for the relationships we develop. Go ahead.
I want to just in general, I think what we don't realize, and I want to shout out Hood Therapy. Donnell done slid in here. Marcel was talking to us. And Melodious is up in here too. Shout out to everybody who slid in. Hit that love button if you haven't already. Go ahead, hit that bell if you already haven't done that either. But it's kind of self-created, because here's the thing: grind culture, just like the food in the market, they know we'll pay for it. Just like these apartments, they know we'll pay for it. So they're gonna keep playing in our face. They know we're gonna keep grinding and finding jobs, and we call them side hustles. No, these are 3 and 4 full-time jobs people is working. This shit is abuse to try to rip and run, but they know it's so competitive out here and there's only so much space that they're gonna keep lifting up the rent because they know they're gonna find a food to pay it. Right. And so a lot of people, I've been seeing a lot of conversations of people who are wanting to do things like strike, just like SAG and AFRA are for their rights in the entertainment industry. A lot of people saying we're looking for these rent strikes. Y'all know UPS was on strike not too long ago. So strikes all over the place. We've been seeing teacher strikes.
UPS had a pretty favorable outcome.
They did, right? But that's because they held their ground and they was willing to blow up the very functionality of the United States delivery and transportation infrastructure in order to prove a point. And we saw what happened with the supply chain issues during the pandemic. We can't play those types of games. Niggas know that now. So literal businesses will go into the red and go under if they don't get these supplies and things like that. And so showing people that you're not bluffing and you're not playing is important. A lot of people are saying tenants need to be the people that's next, that's willing to say we're not paying that shit. You know what I'm saying? I've been seeing on Twitter different conversations, a lot of different tenant groups being formulated, people building. This is why you need to go talk to your neighbors. This is the mistake I made that forced me out of my old apartment and moved over here, because I didn't even know it was neighbors clicked up pushing for each other when they tried to raise our rent on us by $800. But I didn't know until it was too late that the tenants had gotten together and mobilized and said, no, we not leaving and we not paying that shit. And I think those people are still staying over at their apartment complex I left to this
paying
day.
the same amount.
Paying the same amount because they were able to stand up for themselves, and they were getting abused by them landlords trying to raise our shit way over what was federally or I think state-based allowed in terms of the percentage you can raise a rent by. Right. And so get to know the people who live around you. Be willing to talk about how they ain't came by and fixed that shower yet and it's been a month, but yet they want to raise the rent and have these conversations, because you be struggling as the same people. Instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses, instead of trying to judge somebody else's grind and what they do and don't do, talk to them and see how they coming at shit, because you might be in the same boat and y'all might both be getting abused. Everybody grinding, everybody doing what they can to keep up. Don't judge nobody else's. Instead, make sure you know whether you got a friend or an ally there that's ready to fight for you when you're not getting a return on your grind investment, because that is more than likely the case.
Yeah, support systems is key. Support systems. You know what I'm saying? Just focus on your mental health. Make your money.
Yeah.
But remember when it's time to sit down. I literally just had to tell my wife, like, yo, take a lunch break. What is you doing? Somebody, I ate lunch in a week. Like, what the? Take a lunch break. Moving on.
The makers of the drink Synergy are suing, I think, their owners right now because they was being denied working 10, 12-hour shifts, not taking no lunch breaks, not getting them, rather, not doing whatever. That's wage theft, but the other way. You're not stealing from the employer is stealing from you.
Make
sure you know what the hell you're doing.
All right, now we got a few more. Then we're going to, as we prepare to, approach the end of this thing. Thank y'all for coming, rocking with us early in the day. Like, it's like
definitely shout out to Chop Nation, yo. We love y'all.
Yeah, but it's only 3:00 here. It's like 6:00 on the East Coast. Like, you know how that goes.
That means people got off of work after I got off of doing what they've been doing all day and still decided to sit down and talk to us. So I'm grateful.
Appreciate the love. This is one that we all responsible for, though, and this is one we all got to be better at. Ableism.
Yeah.
Ableism. And what we're referring to is the ways in which people who work through disabilities, and I'm gonna explain why I'm pausing as I explain these things in a second. But people who deal with and work through disabilities, when we kind of undermine their experience, when we trivialize their experience, when we don't think about what's necessary for them to enjoy the things or take part in things that we, you know what I'm saying, take part in as people who don't deal with those things. And one of the places that we're the worst at is what's called inclusive language, like people first language.
Yeah.
And what I mean by people first language is we refer to, like, for example, like somebody that deals with a handicapped person, right? A slow person, an autistic person, a blind person. What we not paying attention to is that we're prefacing their identity, who they are, with what it is that is reflected in their bodily circumstance.
Yeah.
We're positioning them as being blind, and that's the type of person they are, right? When what we're not recognizing is it's kind of trampling on their humanity when they already got to deal with things that we, you know what I'm saying, they already feel different. These people,
right.
people are that deal with certain because I don't even want to say ailments, but just different circumstances, different bodily circumstances. We tend to, use language that trivializes what they experience. Like, oh, girl, I can't see at night. I'm blind as a bat. Even I'm culpable in this in terms of when I'm arguing with niggas on different YouTube channels. I call them slow. I say that they're slow. We use ableist language, and this is again the reason why these are normative forms of oppression is because this is the oppression that we don't pay attention to. It's like it's a part of how we engage.
I mean, I can't go without saying in 2023, it's still people using the R word to call something bad. Like there's somebody I care about a whole lot. I think she's fine. I think she's real cool. I had a chance to just catch up with her old friend of mine, and we shooting the shit, like ha ha ha. Like I'm like, ooh, just like good old days. Like I'm literally having a great time just catching up with an old friend. And she was like, I'm like, what? That was so R word. And I was just like, you just snapped me out of my nostalgia. Like I cringed up because, bruh, like you're so much more intelligent than that. The conversation was nowhere even in the direction of that. So that just seemed so ill placed. It was very crass. It was very just uninformed and kind of ignorant. You know what I'm saying? And so it just stop. There are better ways to talk about something being negative or being bad than it was associated with a real condition that people live with on a day-to-day basis they're trying to navigate. You know what I'm saying? Like intellectual disabilities are real. You know what I mean? Like, and so
and people deal with them on different levels.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, people deal with them on different levels. I think one way, and this is like something that we was just talking about that I was dealing with is the ADHD shit. It's like, it like to some people they just kind of play with like, I can't sit down. I got ADHD. I can't focus. I got ADHD. I can't. You know what I mean? It's just literally something as simple as just not being able to focus. When we talk about different neurodivergent issues, it goes much deeper than just whether or not you can sit down and watch something. Right. And so it's all the different ways that people who experience, again, different bodily circumstances, all the different ways that we just kind of undermine and ignore and just bypass their experiences.
Very muchly. And I think, when we talk about, and shout out to Melodious in the comments. I didn't know you was in France. I could have sworn you was in, Hawaii. So
and he get a full 2-hour lunch break.
2-hour lunch breaks. It was ridiculous. But, mentioning that educators who still use it, the R word, knowing that there are still people out in the world who are relying on it, who are supposed to be educated, who are supposed to be protectors of spaces where people with disabilities should feel safe and feel affirmed and stuff like that. That is scary. And I think with any disability, it's important to keep in mind that some of them are visible, some of them are obvious. And so I think, we navigate some of those a little bit more effectively, but some of them are internal, some of them are invisible, some of them you don't see. But very muchly influence why somebody behaves the way they do, the patterns, the habits, the tendencies, the insecurities, the whatever. So when you're worried about why somebody's hair is not as thick or is a certain length, or why their skin is doing a certain thing, or why they produce a certain smell, or why you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of shit that is happening on the inside of bodies. It's so interesting, and I'll say this and I'll toss it back to you, but that we have found a way, and this can jive and go with fat phobia, this can go with these conversations about ableism, but that we can look at different dogs and cats and different zebras and different, pick an animal in the animal kingdom. We can look at it. We know none of them look the same. We know ain't no two dogs alike, but we'll find the cuteness and the uniqueness and the awesomeness in each individual one of those we come across. It's dog people out there who don't meet a dog that's a stranger. Every dog is cute. Every dog deserves to be loved. Every dog is special. Because you are a cat person or whatever. You stop and look at every cat picture. When it comes to people, there's a little difference, a little couple idiosyncrasies, a couple things that's just not how your shit is or how you've been normalized to think things are. And now you just can't fathom it. And it just really, it's mind blowing and it's violent. You know what I'm saying? Because people are different. We live in it, just everybody's different. Twins, right? In their own unique ways are different. And so we have to start kind of peeping and recognizing that. And I think the easiest way to do that is on the level of disability. Not all bodies do the same things. They just don't. This is why your mama fat and you skinny. This is why you skinny and your mama this is why you got a tall brother and you short. My brother is 6'3", has a twin who was born 57 seconds after him. She is 5'1.5", just like me. She's 8'5" but I don't agree.
Don't believe it.
No.
Well, sometimes she be wearing her hair up. Sometimes
I'm not buying it. Not buying it. Right. But
And that's
while
why
these are not disabilities, these are differences that are explained because biology paints something different on every single canvas it comes in contact with. So while we can't seem to fathom that in our community with our own people, it'd be a hard pill to swallow sometimes, man.
and I'm I gotta also own up to where I'm again culpable in this as well. We had somebody who was a supporter of our channel who watched, and she had some special glasses, and I'm not necessarily sure why she had some special glasses, but she had them for for those reasons. And I guess I just kind of made, not even I guess I made I was being loose with my lips, and I made a offhanded comment asking about those glasses, and it triggered her. Like in the chat, like she kind of expressed how issues with her family, and how people hate her, and it was crazy, and it was like, this is what we don't know. Like, this is when we just making comments, and when we just haphazardly just saying shit about people based on what they look like or what they have on, or whatever gear they may be associated with. You don't know what people dealing with based on that type of shit. You know what I mean? And I clearly exacerbated some frustration and opened up some wounds for her that, like, to this day I still feel terrible about. You know what I mean?
You really, and we had that conversation and you handled it gracefully. I think it didn't even capture you as a thing until after we got off the show. And so we had a conversation about it, and you received it. I think reached out to her, messaged her, went and did the due diligence to make sure that you addressed that particular moment. But there's so many times we don't really take the time to either think before we think or before we act, because sometimes it's not what we say, it's how we engage people, it's how we clench up, or how we turn our nose up, or how we create distance or space or do whatever with folk. Or it could be, or you got to make the decision to go behind those moments and clarify and fix them and make sure people are valuable for who they are, not what situation they're dealing with or what condition they come to you in. And I mean, the last thing I want to say before we move on is just that, we all could do a better job of this, but you really just don't know what people go through and what they do and what they experience, try to be in front of you in that moment, to try to appear in front of you in the ways that they are. I don't care if you feel like they together or they not, or that you don't know how much courage and how much audacity, how much nerve it take folk to just be like, well, I'm not going to lock myself in my house for the rest of my life. I'm going to go out into the world. Yeah, I guess I'll go. I know they're going to look. I know they staring. I know whatever. I know they got their opinions. I know they got their jokes ready. I know they talking bad about me. I know I'm going to walk past them and I know they're going to stare.
Somebody going to take a picture
and post it.
And go viral.
Not taking a picture is bad enough, but you want to post it and put captions and shit and act like you know my life. But I'm not going to stay in my house. I'm not going to lock myself away. I'm going to still speak. I'm going to still say something. People don't know how much courage it takes me to deal with this stutter or to deal with this condition or to deal, but I'm going to say something anyway. I'm going to
speak up. I'm going to participate
anyway. I'm going to like what? And so, I try. Be patient with people. Be mindful of people. Care about yourself. Don't be scared, and don't internalize that ableism on yourself and assume that you're not valuable. But we all need to work on, just as a collective group of people, a society, Black folks, whatever, however you want to read it, we got to do better, right? Because there's people around us who's, I mean, last thing I'll say is long COVID. Okay, a lot of us had cocoa, and we don't know what the hell we walking into. We finna be some of them same people we was talking bad about. So be careful who you put your mouth on. And especially when it comes to people who are navigating disabilities, both visible and not.
Exactly. So as we round this thing out, we got two more to deal with. This next form of normative oppression that we all are responsible for, that we all need to be better at: heteronormativity. Now, for those who may not be familiar with the term, heteronormativity refers to the way in which the world is set up to favor, promote, and to whatever other term that's synonymous with promote. Privilege. There you go. That's why I keep toying around. But set up, promote, and privilege heterosexual relationships. All right. And while on one hand, to heterosexual people, that's just like, well, that's just how the world is, right? The world is heterosexual. That is a privilege that we can say, because the way that we engage in sex and romantic relationships is the acceptable way. It's the thumbs up way, right? But when people choose to engage in these things that clearly that aren't illegal, right? They just love differently. When people choose to engage in those things, then that's when the violence comes. When we in the form of homophobia and transphobia. Now,
Yeah.
like my boy Consciously like to point out, phobia does not mean fear to the simple minded.
Yeah.
Phobia does not mean fear. It means any aversion, right? Any type of uncomfortability, the desire to distance oneself from, right? Something you don't want to experience.
Right.
That's where the phobia comes in. And so it's not that there's a fear, it's that aversion to difference that creates the violence. More recently, what I just found out about was over the weekend that there was a young black kid, a black man, choreographer, in New York, who was stabbed, killed.
O'Shea Sibley, say his name, man.
O'Shea
No, I
Sibley.
mean, yeah. Not to hijack that at all, but I
No, no,
want to
no.
make sure.
Well, yeah, no, no.
Yeah,
Like again, I was kind of waiting for the name to pop up on here, but I'm glad you
you
did
got it.
that
You
for
got
me.
it. You got it. With you.
O'Shea Sibley, a choreographer who was doing what he do, dancing outside, and he was dancing around some some Arab Muslim men
At a gas station, yeah.
at a gas station. He was dancing to Beyonce, Renaissance. Um, while after an altercation took place, one of the younger Muslim gentlemen stabbed O'Shea, stabbed him, killed him.
Got into a brief altercation. It didn't take a whole lot. Wasn't a whole lot of turn up. Matter of fact, the reports say O'Shea was trying to defuse the situation, trying to, make light of it, be cool, reconcile the situation. When a little 17-year-old dude stabbed him.
Stabbed him, took his life.
Shame.
This is the thing. And I don't care how uncomfortable y'all are with the word, because I definitely recognize that and I'm sorry, I'm speaking on all of this, but I'm definitely want to give you the opportunity to speak on
No,
it,
you got it.
as well. But there's this conversation around trans women replacing black women, or trans identity infringing on the identities of black women. And these are complicated things that have to be worked out, right? But what we have to understand is the way that the dialogue takes place. In that instance, that with O'Shea, that was religious, right? But that's just that instance. We know the type of violence that queer black people have to deal with, and what makes that violence possible is the disavow of their humanity based on heteronormativity. If you don't fit within the normative standard of engaging in sex or love or anything else, right, you are now deemed deviant. The reason why that's even more problematic for black people is because we already deviant. Anything anybody we deal with worse. So if you poor, being poor and black is worse. If you a woman, being a black woman, it's worse. And this ain't victim mentality. We talking about how the world treats these people. You're not about to sit up here and say that I'm making them a victim when we can look at the statistics and the racial disparities and say, well, who's doing that shit?
Right.
If me identifying what black women got to go through is victimizing them, who's actually doing the statistical shit that would make one even want to make one characterize them accurately as an oppressed group, as the most oppressed? You know what I mean? And so,
absolutely.
And so the one of the most normalized, one of the most dangerous things for cisgendered straight people is heteronormativity. Go ahead, Toya. I was ranting.
You got it. I mean, your rant is spot on, largely because I think, we are underplaying the actual literal violence. It's no longer about hurt feelings. You know what I'm saying? And it's very convenient because, and I don't want to shout out Just Hilarious, but I will acknowledge her as somebody who has most recently been pushing the needle on trans antagonism and on just really queer folk in general. Has been on a campaign here for a while now, being very vocal about her feelings about trans women, trans people, queer people. And the issue I have with that is these responses are largely based on, singular instances where, people are able to say, well, this trans person, because I think the person who she was responding to when she started on her hate campaign was a trans person, blah, 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 blah. Y'all don't own periods. We have periods. So I forget what the lady said, but something that alluded to the fact that, she was more of a real woman, and that she also occupied experiences that cisgender women occupy. And cool, right? Have your criticisms of that, but the same way, here's what messes me up about Black people, the same way one Black person will say something or do something, and we want to make sure that the law, the society, the people are not looking at all Black people because one Black person did some wild shit. Is the same way there is going to be people who don't necessarily, first of all, nobody represents the entire monolith. Nobody represents the entire diaspora of a particular community, right? So every time you see somebody with a camera and the ability to press record, say some wild shit, that doesn't become an automatic justification.
A spokesperson.
The same way one fat person in Lizzo can go do some wild shit, and that doesn't give you agency to be like, oh, them fat bitches are all terrible, right? It's the same. It's the same logic. Quit trying to make it separate. Yeah. Quit trying to make shit separate. Yeah. And by the way, all Black lives matter. So quit trying to make them over there so separate from you. Your gay ass cousin, your trans ass third. I don't care if you talk to them or not. They around you, my nigga. They in your life, they in your family, in your community. They niggas just like you are. Right. And when they are not voguing, when they're not doing whatever, when they're not being comfortable with who they are, what they paying the same bills as you, they're going to the same jobs as you, they eating the same food as you, they're trying to
paying the same taxes.
Hello. They're trying to have the same joys and experiences as you. They just go about doing it differently. So we've had these conversations ad nauseum at this point, and there are not enough or any more quippy ways to say it. Stop being fucking weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, because this shit has physical consequences, more so now that I think before we are hearing stories and reports of what's happening in bathrooms. There was a 14-year-old child who was nonverbal and autistic and went to the bathroom with his mother to go use the bathroom in a women's bathroom and was attacked and berated, and I think was punched on and hit on because they assumed that the child was trans and was in the bathroom trying to do some weird shit. No, it's just this it has real life implications. There was a Black woman who was like darker, kind of dark skin, kind of short, kind of thin or whatever, and was perceived to be a man. Was perceived to be trans and was killed. Was she killed? Yep. Or was she just attacked? I believe
they killed her. She died.
This Black woman.
Yeah, she died.
Was attacked and killed.
Because they thought she was trans.
Because they thought, right? These folks at these schools trying to look in these kids' panty drawers. They're trying to look in their boxers to figure out what they got going on down there before they go to a gym class. Not even playing a sport. They trying to figure out which locker room to send them for gym. And now they want to look in the kids' drawers.
Which is crazy.
This shit is going too far.
Which is crazy because it's been heterosexual. Or I won't even say heterosexual. It's been heterosexual perceived, heteronormative acting individuals like baseball coaches and football coaches and wrestling coaches who end up being responsible for actually touching these kids. And people have become so caught up in fear mongering that the individuals that we need to be, pay more attention to, because they already always getting caught up in that nice. Oh yeah, hey, look at his pants and see what he is, because these transgenders and these gay, they try to do whatever. So look, that's what we doing. We giving people the right to look like, ridiculous. And the last thing I'll say before we get to this last one, because my dog Toya got a lecture that she got to do at USC.
I gotta slide.
Yeah, I ain't go flag it. I ain't go say too much.
USC, we're gonna UCLA today. We taking our talents to
UCLA.
Yeah, we're gonna go to UCLA. Huh?
You about to be at UCLA? I thought you said USC.
I'm probably misspoke. One of them. UCLA.
Nigga, you about to be down the street.
Oh, you live that way?
We'll talk about it.
Hey.
Look, but what I want to point out is something T.S. Madison said. Mm-hmm. Because I've been engaging with a lot of people, like people that's disagreed with, the use of cisgender, that's kind of find like they talk about the queer agenda and all of that. They find it problematic. It's been some people that I'm trust me, I'm saying this as a cisgendered heterosexual man. It's been some people that I've been able to disagree with respectfully. I recognize that I'm saying respectfully because they politics, although I push back against and disagree with, don't necessarily impact me. You know what I'm saying? So I can say, even though it's people that can hear the bullshit that they would say and be like, bro, that's not respectful. You feel me? So that's why I'm saying that, definitely prefacing my social location. And the concern was that all of the transgenders are trying to take over periods. All of the transgenders want to use the women's restroom. All of transgenders want to use language like birthing people. You know what I'm saying? And what do they call breasts? They want to call it. It's just other. It's all of these.
Men have breast. Men get breast cancer. So I don't know that. I don't know whatever term you're talking about, but I don't even know why we need to pivot out of breast because everybody got one.
But so I mean, but so this. But that's the thing, though. Yeah, that's
they want to be. They want to be angry. They want to be angry because they got to learn new words and new terms. And this is what Melodious kind of mentioned too. You know, is people don't want to move with the times. He was talking about that in terms of ableism, but new language, new vocabulary, new lexicons, and now we got the LGBTQs of the LGBTQs.
The alphabet people. The alphabet people is what they call it.
Whatever.
But the crazy thing about it is you'll have somebody like T.S. Madison like birthing people. Ain't nobody saying that shit. Yeah. like this is a trans person. It's like, nah, like we don't want to use y'all dirty ass restrooms. We don't want to. Yeah. You feel me? Like it's there is not this monolithic push that to interact with one transgender person, you interacting with them all. You feel me? Yeah. And because the part that gets missed is, especially from people who like, well, we gotta be black first. We gotta be black first. That's exactly what they are. Their transness is impacted by being black.
It does not trade off with it.
Their gayness is defined by their blackness. That don't go nowhere. Right? And so the idea that the idea that, you know, there's this gay agenda that's against the black agenda. People, there's a such thing as queer black people. And their blackness shapes how they experience being queer. Donnell, I gotta say, before we get into the last part of the conversation, Donnell said, honest question. When a person saying this shit knows better and has a huge platform, is there a point when we can just tell them to shut the fuck up? Spreading disinformation feels more dangerous. That's the thing about social media. It's like, yeah, you can tell them to shut the fuck up. But the platform is there.
Yeah, and they make a series of videos about that shit.
And they want to hear it, and they want to be a part of it, right? And so, you know, that there's that, and that's why we do what we do at the Chop Up, and why y'all need to make sure that we blow the fuck up and get that much bigger. But we're gonna get into the last normative form of oppression for today's conversation, and that is misogynoir. Oh yes. Now, we didn't talk about racism, but please, I actually had this experience today. Let me tell y'all about it. I was on a panel earlier today. Shout out to my man Q Butter, his school Zayax, and it was a island brother by the name. I ain't gonna say the man name, but it was the island brother. But it's like his YouTube name. I don't know his real name, but I'm just gonna tell the story. We were talking about like people who are pro-black, or black people who are anti-pro-black. So black people who beef with pro-black people. And it was a sister on there that was talking about black women choose to be ugly. This is just one of the videos we was examining. And it, like, during this examination, it came out like niggas started kind of pointing out her hair, her weave. It was kind of all over the place. And she was saying black women choose to be ugly. So it was hella ironic. The first question I asked, is this like satire? Like, she's really whatever. One of the island brothers say something to the effect to where, like, black women have the most beautiful hair in the world, and black women who wear weave, it's like hate themselves or some shit like that. like black women, like they black or like black women who wear weave are trying to be European, or they want to be European white women. And I'm just like, I was like, but that's your opinion. And he's like, that's not my opinion, it's a fact. It's not my opinion, it's a fact. And I'm trying to explain to this Negro, bro, this is a panel full of men.
Yeah.
We don't get to dictate the politics of black women based on how we perceive their hair.
Come on.
Like, so, what in only in a world where patriarchy and misogyny has become normalized, that it is a badge of honor to tell a woman what her hair represents for her and why she should wear a particular hairstyle to do or mean whatever. Like that, it's that. And then when I told him, I was like, all right, bro, that's your opinion, so it wouldn't be a fight. No, it's a fact. It's a fact. And to stand on it that hard is like, yes, patriarchy is a fact. Misogyny is a fact. And the attempt for men to control what women look like and what their images mean is also a fact. Mm-hmm. And nigga, you doing that right now.
Textbook.
Right. Go ahead, Toya.
I mean, no, I think, your insight on the conversation, especially, your insight on the conversations that you have speak volumes to the real mindset and the real way that cognitively, I think we have internalized oppression against women and against Black women in particular, right? This is not to say or excuse Black women or from being able to cause hurt. I know that I have invalidated feelings and undermined it. And, I've done all the bad things that humans do to each other. But I think that a lot of the conversation or what we are missing is rooted in the very basic understanding of the systematic and the social ways that women really get shat on every day, right? We are not talking about Roe versus Wade, but it's still very real. We are not talking about
very real.
You know what I'm saying? The issues of Black women. We made a joke about Carly Russell because, she did something that she shouldn't have done, but we haven't returned back to the thousands of Black women that are missing across this country and pop up missing every single day. We're not talking about what happens in cities like Kansas City, where literally people in the urban core of Kansas City rose the alarm about Black women popping up missing and
popping a whole ass serial killer type shit.
Yeah, whole serial killer on the loose in the city of Kansas City. The police did their investigation, determined there was no merit to those types of accusations, and now it's Black women popping up in blue barrels all up in Missouri, in creeks and rivers and shit all around Kansas City these last couple of months. And it's the same ones who was reported missing when there was no issue of Black. You know what I'm saying? So let's be honest with ourselves about what's happening and with how we treat literally 50% of the fucking population and the people who demand lay down and have our kids without having abortions, that demand that they go out and supply and see a man's worth and pay the bills and be like, it's a whole lot of shit y'all want from women, but it's a whole lot of energy not being given back to them. And a lot of people make it more complex than it has to be, right? And two, we talk a lot about misogyny, but not misogynoir, the particular type of exclusion that happens at the intersection of Blackness and womanness. What happens to Black women uniquely. So this video that's queued up right here is going to break it down for the people who act like they don't understand. And for the people who do understand, it should be comical to you because it's very much like, yeah, it's really that damn simple. So yeah, drop the clip.
Yeah, it's like, so because what I like about this clip is he said he explained it like a caveman. Let me make sure can you make sure you can hear that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. We good. All right, let's get it started.
I thought that perhaps I had dumbed it down to the dumbest and easiest level, but now we are going to do misogynoir for cavemen. Black have oppression. Women have oppression. Black women have oppression. Unique to Black women. Not simply Black oppression or woman oppression. New Black woman oppression. Black man have unique oppression. Black woman have unique oppression. Both under white oppression. White oppression like Swiss Army knife. Many tools. Many Black men try to put away racism, but keep patriarchy. Many Black women point out, whole tool fucked. Point out patriarchy hurt Black woman. Black man bitch about accountability. Black man very unwilling to part with patriarchy. White woman buddy up for convenience. White man stay winning. Black man very unwilling to say patriarchy bad. Black man want power low-key like white man from patriarchy. Big problem for Black man cause it don't work that way. Anytime Black woman point this out, Black man get very angry. Black man say, guess we blame Black man now. Black man still won't let go of patriarchy. Black man, Black woman have other dynamics that if me no make a side for people get pedantic. However, me point is, in-game should not be patriarchy go to Black man. In-game should be throwing out Swiss Army knife. If me hear one more comment say take accountability Black woman, me drop boulder on head.
It's that simple.
10 out of 10. And I mean, I want to, on the accountability tip, I want to bring the conversation full circle to where it started by acknowledging that women can be the perpetuators of being fucked up toward men and can be bad to each other. The same way fat people can be bad to other fat people and be bad. We can be bad to each other. That does not mean we don't talk about your ass and the implications of what you do, especially if the conversation started with what you did. Let's look at every relationship. Damo, you're married. You should be able to attest to what I'm about to say
All
and the fact
right.
that it's true.
Let's
In
see.
a relationship, you cannot come to your partner like, hey, I need to talk to you about something that's been on my heart. It's been on my mind. I want to clear the air about this. It's something I want to deal with. It's something that needs to be addressed. And as you address it, that person says, well, now that you mention it, I got some shit that I've been wanting to say. No. You wait until it is your turn, your opportunity to start talking about what your issue is. This conversation is about what you did. Don't tell me shit about me. That is, you got to pick your own time to stop me in the middle of doing something, make me sit down and look you in the eyeballs and have a heart to heart. This is mine. So when we are talking about, right, your criticism, it's 50, literally, our population is split in half. So it is reasonable for you to have a criticism of the other half. Now, a lot of people want to criticize the fact that men don't get to say nothing about women and this, and that, whatever. That's not true. It's about what you do. It's about how you do it. You do it misogynistically. Nobody want to hear that shit. If you were to have valid criticisms and talk about them and present them without tearing the whole womanhood or the personhood of a woman down, you might get a little flexibility.
If you stayed away from the pathology, nigga.
And just talked. But that's hard because y'all gotta beat up on folks and talk about accountability and plot twist and try to divert attention and fucking gaslight people all the time and make us feel like we tripping for saying what the fuck we saying, which is why the shit goes nowhere fast. So I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the plug who is married has just agreed with me. And y'all in the comments, let me know if this is how it goes too. You don't get to hijack my time of calling you to the carpet and us having to come to Jesus meeting. You don't get to, you plan your own. No. And when you do, come correct. Right? Or shut.
Yeah, and so like that's where I feel like this is the space where there's very unique set of niggas that do this. Right? I can't say most men run around. I mean, we all have some tins of misogyny or some bit of misogyny. It's a part of how we were socialized, right? But when it comes to this question of men not being able to call out women.
Yeah.
When the fuck did that happen? Because last time I checked, the standards of beauty, what women think they should look like, what women should be wearing, you know what I'm saying? Like what's considered attractive. Last time I checked, we set that fucking. I don't actually. I say men set that standard. Yeah. The reason why I can't say we is the same reason why these niggas think that they ain't been able to tell women what to do. Because you're not a white man, Negro. You're not a white man.
Yeah.
So that's why you ain't been telling women shit. You ain't been telling women nothing. You ain't been dictated nothing. That's the white man that's been able to do this. So when you say we ain't never been able to criticize, no, your black ass ain't never been taken serious criticizing women.
Yeah.
The white man running this shit, when they criticize Becky, your ass is getting fat. Hit that gym. You know what I mean? White man that got divorced because he just saw some love handles that he didn't appreciate.
Yeah, that he didn't sign up for.
What? Come on now. What is niggas talking about? But we ain't had that control, nigga. And that's really where your frustration lies. Niggas want to have the power of the white man. We want to be able to be critical and tear down and shape what you should believe and how you should operate. We want to shape the reality for black women and what black women should think and how they should understand it. As opposed to being like my brother said, this is a Swiss. This is a pen of oppression. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It may have different colors. Y'all know the pens with different colors. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because I don't like the red, that don't mean I should be cool with the blue.
That part.
That don't mean I should be cool with the blue. We got to get rid of the whole shit. Like that's why I love the way feminists characterize it the best. The white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. That's what we endure. Yeah. But you goofy niggas throw yourselves in front of that criticism as if you have any. You don't, my nigga. But that inability for you to be able to speak to what women is doing is not a question of, or not an issue of the women. It's an issue with whiteness.
That part.
So you want to go ahead and close this out, T?
I mean, we've had a phenomenal conversation. I think the list of things that have been normalized that are not in the best interest of us and that deserve some airtime to talk about, including fat phobia, pocket watching, job shaming, the grind or die mentality, ableism, heteronormativity, and misogynoir and misogyny in general. all really wrap up and solidly explain. So if you jumped in late in the conversation, you want to catch up what we said about some of those other topics, make sure you watch this over again. Make sure you jump on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and tap in with us so that you don't miss these types of conversations in the future. I definitely also want to suggest that y'all keep dropping us conversations and comments over on the IG at the Chop Up Show for things that y'all want to talk about, because we're definitely interested in keeping the discussion both based on what's happening in the world around us, i.e. the Lizzo situation, which we covered at the top of the show, but also some interesting connections that we want to start to make with ourselves to get us thinking a little bit about how to be better people. But the long and the short of it is that we got a lot of shit to deal with, man. And we having a lot more conversations than we ever have. We're being introduced to more terms, more scholarship, more perspectives than we ever had as a society, as a people. But we still, what Cole said, in some instances, went a long way, but you went the wrong way.
Went the wrong way, yeah.
You went a long way, but we still got a long way to go, right? So let's figure some things out. Let's do it together. Let's keep having these conversations and doing great things. If you came in late, I want to request, and you, especially if you ain't said nothing, shout out to Columbus. I think been in here talking to us a whole lot too. L Johnson, I think I shouted out Melodious, of course, but make sure y'all say what's up on the way out. You know, if y'all you been quiet, if you ain't been talking to us at all, even if you have, as we wrap things up, make sure y'all say what's up. Make sure y'all jump in the comments, hit the love, hit the bell, and be tapped into what we got going on over here at the Chop Up Show. And two, if y'all want some spill invites, hit us up. We still got invites to get on spill.
Yo, with that being said, we got to get Toya on up out of here. We appreciate y'all time, and we out.
I love y'all. Peace.